What are you gonna do with your frequent flyer miles?
Yeah, it's UC Irvine. They capture them, collect them, hoard them. Chancellor uses them. He's moving to Ohio State. He needs to be able to get back to his house in Irvine.
Seriously, any concern that that your guys obviously are playing well, but you are moving around a lot.
Well, I just think that we all realize it's a heck of a lot better than the alternative, which would have been that we would have been checking in our gear on Monday or Tuesday, and so we're delighted that we're here, and you're right, it was crazy. I mean, since you opened up that little box, our travel to go to Oregon State we were unhappy with because you deal with NC2A travel, as you probably know, and for us to get all on the same flight. See, Orange County Airport is literally 5 minutes from our campus. They got us out of LAX because that was the flight that they could get all of us on, as they said. And it left at 6 a.m. So we left UC Irvine last Wednesday at 4 o'clock. All right, so we get there and you got time to recover, and they're 20 years old and they can recover. Not all the coaches recovered so well. Played their tails off and whatnot. So then we played that Monday night game, and it's over. We're back in the rooms at 12:30, and you can tell them that it's no time to party. Nice try with that. But we're on a bus at 6 o'clock in the morning, and to drive to Portland. They sleep well, they slept well, and we got back to our campus at 5, and then we left at 6 a.m. yesterday morning. So your question brings that answer, and but trust me, if that sounds like a complaint, it's really not. We're glad to be here, and there'll be no excuse.
You talk about the way your pitching staff doubled up in some cases, went the extra mile. I know Elliott finished off, got the last out in the championship game, and they seemed eager to turn around and get it done this weekend.
Well, it's the first time anybody on this team has had to do this, at least while they've been at UCI. Maybe in their previous schools they've dealt with something like this. I don't know. I don't think it's all that uncommon for people that are in these playoff situations, including in the big leagues. We'll get a lot of criticism from those pro guys for abusing college arms. But they don't mind bringing Oral Hershiser back on 1 day's rest. Okay, that's altogether different. You're right, we did, particularly it was Andrew Morales, who went 100 pitches on Friday and 60 pitches on Monday. Elliott, who threw Saturday, was out there for 20 pitches on Monday, so therefore he's the starter in the first game, and that's pretty obvious why we'd have to do that. I have to admit that I was a little uncomfortable with it, just because of what conceivably could go wrong, and we'd all feel like I certainly would feel like a complete moron if either one of them had come up lame. We seem to have dodged that bullet, I think, but you get into these situations and it truly is the cliche, all hands on deck, and they were good with it. They wanted to do it.
Coach, you manufactured a lot of runs, obviously, up at Corvallis, but it takes a certain type of player to buy into that type of style, I would think. Does that go into your recruiting, or is it more coaching once they get there? How have you molded this team, I guess, somewhat in your image and in the way you want them to play fundamental baseball?
Much has been said about that, at least in our little world of college baseball. That truthfully is not the way I see it at all. I honestly think, and we're going to find out this weekend, but I honestly think that our approach is, at least our philosophy, is no different than Oklahoma State's, which is to build the complete player. We think it is, in terms of offensive philosophy, we think it's first about hitting. And when we go recruiting, we don't look for a guy that we think might be able to bunt. We look for a guy that we think might be able to hit. And we don't always get it right, but That's the first thing. If we can't hit, we can't win. We just can't. Now, you might win a game, right? But that's anybody or everybody. I mean, we can all look at scores and see 2-1 scores, and somewhere in there was a hit and run or a squeeze or some other move a runner. So our approach, I think Jerry would back me up on this. Our approach is to develop the player that can execute all the skills, that he will know how, be trained to, and make a legitimate attempt to move a runner from second base and nobody out. To give us a middle ground ball with the infield back and a guy at third. That's all part of the approach. But I think that's a very common approach. I don't think that's uncommon. Now, then what happens is you certainly have to do what your abilities allow you to do. That's really all it is. So we don't go into any season thinking, well, we really got to squeeze on this team. This team has probably squeezed more. Jerry's been there for 3 years. He might agree that in any season of, let's call it, in round number 60 games, we might get down a squeeze every 2 weeks. But that's not been the case this year. I mean, we've squeezed more. Everybody knows it. Well, that's about who the hitter is and what the situation is. And so every guy does every skill. Now, we like Jerry for a lot of different reasons. We're not even talking about defense here. But the first reason is he's a tough out. He's a competitive out. He's not easily fooled. He doesn't strike out much. He handles the breaking ball pretty well. But he can do the skills, and he attempts to do the skills. One of the things that was particularly gratifying to us over the weekend is players sometimes think when you're asking them to move a runner from second base and nobody out, that they're being asked to Judy a ground ball to the second baseman. What we really want is a ball driven to the right side. We don't want a fly ball. We don't want a pop-up, but we want a ball hit hard. Well, he came up with runners at second, third the other night. It was actually in the first game against Oregon, and hit a bullet ground ball to the right of second base that not only moved a run, but not only scored a run, but moved the next runner and scored the next runner. And that's the perfect scenario. So I honestly don't think there's many people in college baseball that aren't teaching exactly the same thing.
You're saying, though, it's good to have a hitter who's got a lot of options, a lot of versatility.
Well, I do. I mean, we'd be lying if we said we got it right. You know, that we've got this thing nailed, because these guys would tell you that it's a process always. It seems to never end. But everybody knows that everybody does exactly the same thing on all of the skills, all the drills. Everybody does the same way, because we think that Jerry squeezed. He squeezed successfully. He moved a runner successfully. He's hit a home run successfully. So yeah, so it's. I mean, it is truly first about hitting, and I don't like to have a guy in the lineup that's an out. That's what I got.
Elliot, two-faced question. You've had a chance to look at the yard out there. Can you talk, and I know you faced a very good offensive lineup in that other OSU. Talk a little bit about the yard pitching in there. It's a little smaller than some, and also the lineup you faced coming up on Friday.
Oregon State was a pretty hostile environment out there, and would get pretty loud. So I don't think we'll be hit with any surprises here, knowing that it's the same type, will most likely be the same type of environment. But also just getting to know the yard during BP is pretty key into helping us this weekend and getting a feel for everything and the surroundings and really what to expect.
Their lineup, I mean, I know you'll probably go over it some more before you pitch tomorrow night, but they've really kind of developed to where they're from 1 to 9, you know, pretty equal and kind of got all cylinders going at the same time here recently.
Yeah, I think you just have to take it one pitch and one batter at a time and just not try to think about the 4-hole hitter when you're trying to face the 9-hole hitter. Just worry about that one guy that's coming up to the plate and worry about executing that one pitch before you get on to the next one.
Jerry, could you give us a little insight into Elliott as a pitcher, and also Andrew Morales, who I'm assuming we'll see on Saturday, just from your special vantage point?
From my point of view, I mean, they're just consistent. You just kind of know what they're going to get out every weekend.
Start on them each individually.
Okay. Well, they're pretty much opposites then. You got Mo, kind of a power arm, power slider, off-speed guy, and then you got Suri, who's a crafty lefty. So, I mean, it's a good 1-2 punch. You come off of Mo, who's all everything right now, and then 90, 92, good slider and stuff, and then you get Elliott, who's mostly fast change. It's a good 1-2 punch because, I mean, they both keep you off your toes, but in different ways.
How shocked were you guys last year when Andrew didn't get drafted, and now he might be like a third or fourth rounder, which is very high for a senior to be projected in the draft?
I mean, we were pretty shocked, but we loved it because we knew what we were getting back. So, I mean, yeah, it was nuts because we thought someone would give him a shot. I mean, he's 40-2 or something ridiculous, but yeah, no, we loved it because we knew what we were getting coming back.
Coach, not to say that you've been around, but you've kind of been around, and it's a little interesting in that your program has had more recent regional and playoff success and Omaha, appearances than this program, which has a great tradition. But Josh has kind of been brought in to kind of rebuild this. Your thoughts on what you're seeing as far as what he's done in a short time?
Well, I had met Josh previous to this. It's not like I knew him well, but I was very familiar with the reputation that he was earning while he was an assistant at Arizona State and then at Vanderbilt. I really do know Tim Corbin very well, and when Tim Corbin hired him, it really sort of said all anybody needed to know, that this guy was obviously a really quality guy. Now, in the roles he had in both those jobs, he's one of those guys that the reputation was built in a big fashion quite quickly and quite justifiably. Now, my perception of, in just the brief time that it's happened here, is the same perception everybody else has, that, and you guys would certainly have it up close and personal. But it's clear to me that he is first of all, just a really good guy. They treated he specifically, but everybody we've met here, in just the brief time we've been here, have treated us like gold. Because we got here so early yesterday, we hadn't worked out at home. I called Josh and asked him, could we have access to your facilities? And there was no hesitation, and they did everything they could to accommodate us. He came out and spent time with us while he was scouting us. But it's clear that he is a really, really good guy, and I am familiar with both of his assistant coaches, who also have a great background, and so they form an #1 staff. And I certainly wasn't familiar with the personnel when they came in and took over, and I don't know how many of these guys were in the program when they took over. But this is not a shock to me, and in my view, they're here to stay. This deal is, hey, look, you said, have I been around? I played against Oklahoma State in the national championship game like 75 years ago, okay? And we lost to a Gary Ward team in 1996. So I've been a victim of Oklahoma State's a few times. So I am familiar with the Robin Ventura days and the Incaviglia days and so forth. And I know that there's been a lull in the action. Not anymore.
For either of the players, can you share with us what Coach Gillespie's meant to you in your career?
Please don't.
And also, in particular last week, going up to Oregon State, I mean, he's obviously been through getting to Omaha before plenty of times. But just kind of what you guys have learned from him in your career, or even in the last few weeks.
Be all right.
I think we all trust him pretty much. He's been around for a long time, so he knows he's been through the ropes, and just trust everything he says.
From a hitting standpoint, I mean, we all kind of know what the style of play. I mean, you guys could say small ball, whatever, but for us, it's baseball now. I mean, we're doing anything we can to win, and we know Skip's at the helm, so we're buying into whatever and just kind of giving it 100% and luckily it worked out for us last weekend.
Yeah, like an example of something where he said something and you thought, and it dawned on you later, like, wow, the man's a genius. How do you know? Like, where you were initially where you were thinking like, what's he thinking, and then it totally made sense.
Squeezing with your four hitter.
There you go.
I think it is, and like a 1-0 count, something like that.
You guys swing DeMarini, don't you?
Yes, we do.
Good bats.
Yeah.
Hey, it's hot right now.
Yeah.
A lot of teams left in this thing swinging DeMarinis.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
Coach, obviously, Coach Serrano took the previous Irvine team that went to Omaha, but you got plenty of experience at USC as both a player and a coach. What would be the key factors for you for what it takes for a team to, obviously beyond luck, I know that's always a factor, but for a team to get to Omaha?
Well, we think the formula is pretty simply stated, and it never changes. I mean, we're not really deep on the mound. We do have 5 or 6 quality guys, not 96, but it's first about pitching. I mean, he knows this. It'll start with him Friday night. He has to be him. He doesn't have to be a better him than him, but he has to be him, and we have to catch it. We can't give away extra outs. And then we've got to scratch and claw and make some contact and barrel up some balls and move some runners and find a way to get a run. We say often, or sometimes at least, that we've got to go into every game thinking we got to find a way to win 1-0, and we hope it's 9-0. But we got to pitch and defense well enough to, if we can get one run, make it work. Now we've lost some 1-0, 2-1, which kind of points up the importance of the pitching and the defense.
Give us a sense of what the Big West was like this year. I mean, early on it was clear that Fullerton was struggling a little. Then you guys, what were you, 19-1 in the league, and then find yourself on the bubble a few weeks later. So Cal Poly has an historic year. Maybe just your thumbnail look back.
I go back a long way playing against the teams that are now in the Big West, and so I really am familiar with the league and the people in the league. And in my view, the Big West this year was the best that it's literally ever been. There were years where Fullerton, we're going way back, where Fullerton ruled the roost, and they were kind of a one-man operation in terms of the U1 team. And along came Long Beach and then Fullerton, but Cal Poly and Riverside weren't in the league in those days, and but they came on, and now those programs are not only outstanding, but Santa Barbara's been real good now for 2 years. Hawaii's in the league, and they're always competitive and really tough to beat over there. So from top to bottom this year, we felt that, and I still feel to this minute, that it's the best that league has ever been. And it was, in my view, the best league, top to bottom, in the West this year. And the numbers will back us up on that. In the games versus the other conferences, the Big West more than held its own. And it's true, we jumped out to a big start. We were 15-1, but we had not played Santa Barbara, Cal Poly, Fullerton, or Long Beach. And so I think it's deceiving. A lot of people think we went in the tank. We really didn't. We actually played well, and we lost 8 in a row. And in 5 of the 8 games, we were ahead in the 8th. And they were those games: 1-0, 2-1, 3-2. So we really didn't. We didn't hit much, but we didn't play poorly, and we played teams that were very good. Those 3 teams are all out now. But if the regionals were to start tomorrow, nobody would like to see those 3 teams in their regional. You saw Fullerton here last week. You may not. I mean, I know what Oklahoma State did to them, but I can promise you that Fullerton could hold their own against anybody.
Anything else? Jerry, if people come out and see your team play this week, what do you want them to go away with thinking that UC Irvine baseball is all about? What would you hope that they appreciate about your program?
Just a team that, leaves it all on the field. We got a really good group of guys who kind of bought into that, and you guys will see it. We got a bunch of clowns on this team, and clowns in a good way, because it's just energy. And to be honest, a lot of teams it's pretty overwhelming at first, but yeah, we pretty much leave it all on the field, and got a lot of guys with a lot of heart, and just we know we love to play.